Hello, once again I welcome you all on behalf of GLS in this special series. If I ask you who is paying banker, collecting banker, it is very difficult to answer instantly. Here we come with the case laws and real-time example. This makes the learning effective and the concepts are registered well in mind.
Welcome back. Now we are going to cover very important topics, that is about negotiable instruments. So paying banker and collecting banker, their different roles, and we are going to cover all this in real life situations. Now let's look at the processes. So what are the case laws on the responsibility of a paying bank? When the checks are issued by a bank's customer, they are represented through inward clearing. They are paid by his banker by debiting his customer's account. So bank's duty is to honor the customer's mandate under section 31 of the Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. Now we are going to cover various sections and the case law related to that, especially section 10, 89, 128 and 85. Let's look at section 10. It basically discusses about the payment which is done by the bank in due course as apparent tenor. In this particular case, ETC Limited Company had sold some jute to another limited company for a payment, and the other company, that is WFD, issued an uncrossed check payable to ETC or order, which was delivered to one of the officials of ETC. The official using the company's seal endorsed the check as manager and encashed it over the counter. ETC later on sued bank for recovery of the money on the ground that damages, or in alternative the grounds of money had received by the bank. Bank got the protection as payment was done in due course as apparent tenor. So this is section 10. Now we look at section 89. Here what we are looking at as a concept is bank again gets a protection if there is no alteration which was visible. In this case, Mr. B, a member of the royal family from Nepal, had an overdraft account and there was no limit set as far as this account was concerned. Remember, this case is of a pre-independence era, especially April 1946. So B requested bank to enhance the OD limit, which was however not agreed by the bank. He issued a check of rupees 70,000 and the same was sent by post, which was intercepted. And in the process what happened, that the actual amount was enhanced from 256 to 234081, that is more than 2 lakh rupees. Check was put for collection and the amount was paid by the bank. Now B sued both paying and collecting bank, contending that though the check was signed by him, it was written by someone else. Remember, here check is signed by one person, written by someone else. In this case, what the court held? Court held that since no alteration was there and which was not visible at the time of payment, the payment was made according to the apparent tenor of the check. So it was upheld that bank was not responsible. Another interesting case under section 128. Company had a current account with the bank which was operated by the company's MD. Company accountant in whose custody the check book was forced the signature of the MD in 42 checks totaling around 3,26,000 odd. This was detected by another accountant. The company immediately on detection demanded the amount from the bank. Bank refused the payment and therefore the case was filed in Supreme Court. Imagine the matter went to the apex court of this country. Supreme Court pointed out that the check on which the customer's name as a drawer was forged was mere a nullity. The bank would succeed only when it could establish adoption or estoppel. So the bank did not get any protection as the signature of the customer was forged. Next, section 85. Bank had agreed to grant firm a cash credit facility against the pledge of cloth bills. And of course, these firm fulfilling certain conditions, one of which that money for purchasing the cloth would not be directly given to the firm, but instead the supplier would be paid the amount by the bank and the cloth bills would be kept by the bank as a pledge for the loan. The firm thereafter was required to draw a check on itself. Remember, check to be drawn on itself, which was handed over to the bank. The bank, instead of handing over cash to the firm's partner, which was a paramount requirement, the partner to pay to the wholesalers, the bank entrusted it to one of the banker's employees who accompanied the partner to the wholesaler. So however, before the money could be paid, the wholesaler, the employee of the bank, he absconded, whose name was incidentally Mr. Poddar. As per section 85, it had to be established that the payment had in fact been made to the firm or to a person on behalf of the firm. Here in this case, the person to whom the payment was made, Mr. Poddar, had nothing to do with the firm or payment of the agent of the bank. So, bank did not get protection since payment was not made to the holder, his servant or agent in due course. So, this is payment in due course is the concept here. Here, payment was apparently done to someone else. Another example under section 31. This is again case of a quite last century, to be precise May 67, where a proprietor, Mrs. Imperial Tube and Hardware Mart opened an account in the name of firm with branch at Union Bank of India. He presented a check dated 29 May 1967 for rupees 6,500 in favor of his firm to Union Bank of India. On presentation of the check through clearing, the appellant bank passed the check and debited the amount to the account of the respondent. Later on, it was objected that the check, when the check was checked under ultraviolet ray, it was revealed that original check was issued to someone else, Mr. G.R. Pardawala, and the amount was mere 95.98. So it was clearly a case of forgery. The writing on the check was chemically altered with regard to date, name, and the amount. So it was noted that the apparent tenor of the check is a genuine one, and respondent made a demand to the appellant bank to credit the amount to its account. So bank gets protection since the payment is done as per apparent tenor after availability of sufficient funds and customer's mandate is honored. So we talk about process of a collecting banker. When the checks are received by the bank's customer, they are deposited by the customer with the bank, they are collected by his banker, the customer's account is debited upon clearing of check, and bank's duty is defined under section 131 of the Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. So section 131, if we look at, again, a thief stole a check in transit and collected the same through a bank where he had opened an account without reference, and by posing himself as a payee whose signature the thief had forged. After collection of the check, thief withdrew the amount. The bank was held liable to make good the amount since it acted negligently while opening the account, in as much as it had not obtained any reference. So bank do not get protection since the act of negligence on the part of the collecting banker was established. Now we come to the summary part of it. So we are talking about a paying banker and a collecting banker. In case of banking process, paying banker, it's an inward clearing. In case of collecting banker, it's an outward clearing. Next thing is when checks are issued by the customer are debited to his account. When checks received by the customer are credited to his account. Now, duty of the banker and applicable sections of Negotiable Instrument Act under paying banker, honor its customer's mandate under section 31, and to collect checks on behalf of the customer under section 131 is the collecting banker's duty. Protection to liability of the banker. When as far as paying banker is concerned, under section 10, payment in due course, as we discussed as apparent tenor. Under section 89, payment on which alteration is not apparent. Under section 128, customer signature on check is forged. On the other hand, as far as collecting banker is concerned, if it acts in good faith and acts without negligence, and collecting bank received payment for a customer. So these are the protection and liabilities to the paying bank and the collecting bank. Further, if you look at protection to liability of the banker under section 85, as far as paying banker is concerned, payment to the holder, his servant or agent is payment in due course as the concept of apparent tenor. And under section 31, lays down condition as to when bank has to make payment on check drawn by customer in capacity of a paying banker. As far as collecting banker is concerned, check should be crossed generally or specifically to himself. Other important points. Payment in due course means, as far as the paying banker is concerned, payment as per apparent tenor. Apparent tenor means instruction of the drawer of the check which is apparent from merely looking at the face of the check. Payment is made to the holder in due course. Payment is made in good faith and without negligence. So, as far as the paying banker is concerned, these are the things to be remembered. On the other hand, As far as collecting banker is concerned, banker has to satisfy that banker should act in a good faith and without negligence in receiving payment, that is in the process of collection. Banker should receive payment for a customer, that is act as a mere agent in collection of the check and not on his account as holder. Person for whom the banker acts must be in his customer. Check should be crossed generally or specifically to himself. So that concludes our very important part, and we now move to the MCQs on paying banker and collecting banker.